You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your hosts, Keith Wheeler
and Nuria Colby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Today, we're going to talk about what makes a quality book. So, big question.
It is. We talk about, quality over quantity all the time, and, having a good quality cover, having good quality interior, but we don't really define what quality is. So I thought this was a really good topic to cover.
Yeah, it is. And also because it's such a difficult question to answer. It's not, if someone says, we keep talking about quality versus quantity, and quantity can be defined really easily,
right.
Make 100 books, that's quantity. Quality is really, I always wonder about that. I wonder what actually does make a quality book. And I think when you have some books that are selling well, it's easier then to pinpoint what makes them quality books, because they wouldn't be selling if they were not quality books. And I think we've all got an idea about what makes a quality book. I don't know if our ideas are going to be that different, because we'll probably agree on that again. But what would you say? What are your specifications for a quality book?
Well, the first thing is and this is kind of what you were alluding to, is that quality for everybody is different. It is subjective. But that said, I think there are some things that are that the general consensus would be, this is a quality book. And I think the first thing is the amount of effort that went into it. And I don't necessarily mean you had to spend hours, weeks, months, because it depends on the type of book, and it depends on what you're passionate about and what you're knowledgeable about. I know I write faster than other people, so I can write a quality book faster than maybe some other people can. That said, there are people that could write one faster than I. And so it's, like I said, there's no hard and fast rule, but I think the biggest thing is a poor quality book is a lot easier to define. A poor quality book is a book that was literally just thrown together, no care behind it, no passion behind it. Basically, and I'm sure we've all seen them on the marketplace, where it's clear that they just put it up there just to, because they heard about, KDP and making passive income. And so I'm just going to throw this together and hope it sells. So I think it's a lot easier, unfortunately, to define poor quality than good quality. But I would say that one of the biggest things for me is the amount of effort that went into it.
I think you're absolutely spot on with that. I would say exactly the same. And actually, if I think of the books that I have that sell, they all took a lot longer than the ones that aren't selling that well. And it took more effort. So you're absolutely right. I think that is a good answer. When people ask, what makes a quality book, most people will say, a good cover, first of all, because that's what people see, first of all, the cover. Right. But then there's another question, what makes a good cover?
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. So it doesn't really answer any of the questions about quality. But if you had to answer that, a quality cover would be one that appeals to people, that, again, you would have to make an effort to create a quality cover. It wouldn't be something you can create quickly, because even, unlike you, my main books are low content, so even the notebooks that I make, there is a lot of effort behind the cover, because that's what makes a notebook stand out. There's not much else to a notebook.
Right.
But it's the care you take over that cover, and how much time you put into it, how much you research your niche and who would be interested in this, and the people that could be interested in this, what do they want from this particular notebook? So there's a lot of thought behind even a simple notebook, and a lot of effort. So that's the cover. And then obviously the interior is exactly the same. Again, you would have to make an interior that your target audience can identify with or can find helpful. So those are quality books, and the ones that are not quality, like you said, they've just thrown a cover together very quickly. And I have to say, we've all done this.
Yeah.
I have done that as well. When you're first starting out, you're still experimenting, and you get those kind of days where you think, I don't know what to do, I'll just make something quickly.
Right.
Never works. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it is to do with effort. Definitely agree with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to low content, no content books, when I say effort, I don't necessarily mean, how fast it is for you to create, because especially with no content, low content books, it's very easy to create a template, which makes you the availability to knock out, books faster. But what went into creating that template? Quality went into it, effort went into that. And so, yeah, that's still a good quality book. I think one thing that you kind of mentioned and really drills home what quality book means to me, and that is, what is it? How useful is it to the end user? Is whether your book is a written book and it's meant to, if it's nonfiction, it's meant to educate, if it's meant to entertain, if it's meant to be useful, like a no content, low content book, whatever the purpose of your book is it providing that kind of purpose? And whatever your niche is it providing that for your end user? Will your end user think it's quality? Because the good thing about quality is, the higher the quality, the higher you can charge. And so that's also one way you can tell the ones where people know that they're putting out poor quality, is when they're throwing one together. And like I said, you can tell when they've been thrown together. I've done it early on in my career as well. But then the price usually is super low as well, and especially people shopping on marketplaces like Amazon, most of the time they're not there for bargain bin pricing. They're there because they have a need, they trust Amazon, and they want to go there. And so many times, at least in my experience, if there is multiple products within the same line that are similar, very seldom will they pick the cheapest one. Sometimes they'll go for the most expensive, but sometimes, majority of the time, they'll go for the ones in the middle. Yeah. And so another way to tell the quality is, with the pricing. And I would say, if you know that your product is good quality, don't do the, dirt cheap pricing, price it accordingly. And obviously we can do a whole nother episode on pricing, which we've already done a couple, but yeah, I think, the main thing for me when it comes to quality is the end user, when they buy it, are they going to give you a 5-star review or a 1-star review?
That's a really good point, because that's exactly what it's all about. A quality book is basically a book that people are drawn to, that once they've got it, they think, wow, this has made a difference in some way. Might just be a small difference in their life, but it's made a difference.
Right.
And people normally equate that to the money you've spent. Oh, well, this was good for $5, or this was good for $8, or something like that. And if it's really good, then of course you can charge more, like you said, and that's, as you said, another episode. Right. But yeah, that is also a sign of a good quality book. If you can charge more and people are happy to pay that, it's a quality book. And the other thing that I always say as well, and I get a lot of people asking me, what is a good niche? What should I publish in? Tell me a bit more about what you do. And I always say to people, it wouldn't help you if I told you my best-selling books. You can look up any best-selling book on Amazon, and that's basically, I could say, oh, I've written that, just take that, for example. And then if you copy that, that doesn't mean your book is going to sell. So there's absolutely no point in somebody telling you this is a good niche or that is a good niche, because there's no guarantee that that book will sell. And the reason for that is because you can make a sub-quality book in that niche, and then it's not, it's not going to work. Or even if you make a really good quality book, it still doesn't mean it's going to work. You have to find what works for you, and you have to find the quality, or you have to give your books the quality that they need. And this is one of the reasons I always say to people, make books in something you know about, because that instantly makes it higher quality. You know, if you make a book about something that, if I made a book about football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, it would be a complete flop because I haven't got a clue about it. You know, I wouldn't know any sports for that matter. You know, I wouldn't be able to make a book because I don't know the target audience. I don't know what you need for that. Whereas if I made a book about gardening, that, you know, there I can talk about it for ages, and I would probably make a much better quality book.
Right.
So there is a lot to do with what you're good at and what you're, you know, what you know about. You don't have to be an expert, but you have to know something about that niche. And the more you know, the better quality your book will be. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. And also many times it'll actually be faster for you to create it because you're more passionate about it and knowledgeable about it. So you don't have to research a bunch of stuff. And that's always, whenever I have someone starting out in this business and they ask me, what should I write about? That's the first thing I tell them is like, make a list of things you know and love, you know, and then when you're done with that, make a list of things that you're, you know, the people that you know and love, you know, things that you know, either, even if you're not 100%, you know, involved in it, at least if you know somebody who is, you can still glean some information from them as you're doing your research. So and I think, you know, quality, one thing I wanted to point out is one thing we unfortunately have no control over when it comes to quality is the quality of like the covers or the quality of the paper or whatever.
The physical quality.
Right. Yeah. But that said, we do have a little bit of control because we can order author copies and see what that quality is before our end user. And so if we create the product and we put it on, I'm not going to pick any particular platform, but we put it on a print on demand platform, we order an author copy and we get it in and we're like, that paper's super thin.
Yeah.
And you know, I will name one. And this is not a slam because they know it. Draft to Digital. Draft to Digital offers print on demand and they offer paperback. They don't offer paperback for children's books because they know that the weight of the paper that they use is thinner weight, so the colors won't look right. And so that's why they don't offer, because they know they could not, as a business, create at this time a quality book. And so, you know, that's just one example. So if you see it's on a, you know, you put it on a platform, you print it out, or, you know, you order an author copy and it's not, would you be willing to pay that amount of money for that book? If you wouldn't, not because it's your book, but the book itself, then there's other print on demand platforms to go to, you know? And so there are definitely some platforms, in my opinion, that are better for certain types of books, you know? And so, just, you know, so even though you put a lot of effort into the book itself, don't let it stop there when it comes to quality. Order an author copy and make sure that the physical copy is the quality that it should be.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I didn't know that, by the way. And that saved me a lot of research now because I was actually going to look into Draft to Digital for children's books and other books as well. So that's very interesting. That is such good advice. You know, author copies are there for a reason. And I think, again, this is where researching comes into it, that forms part of the quality of your book, because if you hadn't mentioned this now, I would have had to research this, and, you know, and I probably, if I then do my research right and find out that the paper quality is not appropriate for the types of books that I want to create, then I'm better placed to make a quality book. So the research that goes into it is all part of creating that quality as well. So really good advice there. And I think, you know, we have that a lot on Amazon with coloring books as well. I don't make coloring books. Tell a lie, I've got one coloring book on Amazon, but it's not a coloring book for people who specialize in coloring, because I know people that color for a hobby. are very fussy about what they color and the paper quality and everything. So mine is more of a gag gift book, a gimmicky book. But if I were to make coloring books, I would probably not make them on Amazon KDP either, so there is that, because I just don't think that they're the best quality for people who like to color in books. So there is a lot to the quality. And like you said, it's the physical quality as well. And I think that part is the one that we understand best, because when we think of quality, we think of the material quality, the physical quality of something. But for us, I think the quality of a book is something much more abstract, much more sort of, it's what's behind the book, the thinking behind the book, the topic, the target audience. Are they targeted properly? There's just so much that goes into a quality book. Is it part of a brand? Is there a brand behind it? There is a lot to say about quality. And I think we could just say very quickly, it's the cover and the interior, but there's just so much more. So I don't know if I've left anything out, but can you think of anything else that makes
sense? No, I mean, one thing when it comes to the cover, and again, we did a whole episode on covers, so I won't belabor that too much, but it don't necessarily equate dollars to quality. You can have a good, you can pay especially if you're writing fiction books, you can spend $300 on a cover, and it could be a beautiful cover and it could be amazing. But if it doesn't speak to your audience, then it's not a quality cover for that book. It can still be a good quality cover, but if it doesn't fit that niche, then it's not a good quality book for that, or a good quality cover for that book.
Yeah.
And so you really want to make sure that everything aligns. Obviously the cover is the first thing people are going to see, but also there's a lot of aspects that get someone from seeing your book to buying your book. And so along that way, make sure that there's good quality getting put into all of it. The book description, the back of the book blurb, if you have that. The pricing, the pricing, like I said earlier, you want to make sure that it correlates with the quality of the book itself. And of course, the interior. So many people spend a bunch of time creating a good quality cover, or paying for a good quality cover, and that speaks to their niche. And then the interior isn't good. It's not formatted properly. It just, whether you're writing a written book or you've got no content, low content books, many readers and users may not know our industry. So they don't know, that's not formatted properly. They just know if it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
So, a great way to test that out is to get beta testers, and just have them look at it. And I don't mean your family and friends, you can have them do it if you want, but majority of the time, they're not going to be honest with you. Not the brutally honest that you need. If this is your business, then you want people to be brutally honest with you, because you want to put your best foot forward, your best book forward. And because I'll tell you, paying customers are not going to be, they're not going to hold back. They're going to tell you exactly what they think. And as hard as it is to get a review, I will tell you the easiest review to get is a bad one. Because those are the ones where people will love to come online and share their negative thoughts. And so you want to give them the least amount of fuel for that as possible.
That's really beautifully put. That's great. That is such a big truth. People will make more effort to leave a negative review than they will to leave a positive review. And that's because there's a lot of psychology behind anything we do, and talking about book covers, there is a psychology. And I think that saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Obviously, someone came up with that who made terrible book covers because they thought, the inside is really, really important, not just the cover, So there is a lot to it. There's a lot of psychology, the pricing, as you said, and obviously the interior has to be good as well if the cover is to have any impact. But yeah, there's just a lot that goes into a quality book, and I always found that really hard to answer to myself even, when I thought, well, how do I make a quality book? What does that even mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of narrowed it down now to making books in something and something you're passionate about and all those things, but also quality as in the physical quality of the book, into researching properly. So there is just a lot that goes into it. And I think that's why people that are coming into this business who have just watched a video about somebody making a very simple notebook, putting it on Amazon or wherever, and saying, yes, you can make $1,000 a month with that. That is just not telling the whole story. And
Right.
People that think that will be disappointed, because there is so much that goes into it. Whereas the people who like creativity and who like to explore things and who are creative, they will love this, because
Yeah.
there is just so much to it. I learn something new every day. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you're the
And
same with that.
yeah. I've actually said numerous times, the moment I stop learning stuff in this business will probably be when I stop doing it.
Yeah.
But one thing, just to kind of touch on this is, and I don't want to go into it too much, but there's a fine line between putting time and effort to create quality and putting time and effort to create perfection. And we've already done is better than perfect. And so which was a great episode if you haven't seen or heard that. But yeah, I mean, I don't want people to think, oh, I've got to spend more time on this. I feel like, and like I said, if you don't know, but because maybe you're too close to it, that's when you ask other people. There's plenty of Facebook groups, for every niche. And so reach out and see if someone would be willing to do to be a beta tester. Most people will be happy to get something for free, and so you just, and I don't just mean for like written books, like journals and puzzle books and all that. Like I've gotten beta testers for all of it.
Yeah, that's actually another really good point you made, because I've made books where I've spent so much time and effort, and like you just said, if you're too close to it, because once you start spending so much time with it, it becomes your baby, and then you don't see any negatives. You just think, this is amazing. This is an amazing book. People will love it. And very often you miss the fact that other people don't care. They don't really love it. They don't see it the way you're seeing it, because you are creating it and you're putting all that effort in. So what you just said is absolutely crucial. Let somebody else look at it and see what their reaction is. And like you said, maybe not friends and family, because they will tell you what you need, what you want to hear, but somebody who's, or maybe we've all got that one friend that's really critical of whatever you do. Maybe someone like that, because sometimes the negative reviews or the negative comments are more helpful than the positive ones. Not always, but in many cases they are really helpful if you take it as a way of improving things. Then I think they're worthwhile and they're valuable to you. So yeah, definitely step away from it after a while, because especially when you're putting in a lot of effort into something, you need to maybe even just leave it for a day or two and come back to it later and then see how you feel about it. Because that's happened to me quite a few times where I've stepped away from it. I looked at it again and I thought, this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Yeah, that's happening a lot.
Yeah, a book baby is something that is real. You get emotional, you get attached to them.
Yeah.
And so I agree 100%. But I would say that when you do find someone to beta test it or read it or whatever it is, make sure that it's something that they would find useful.
Yes.
Because if it, like, let's say you're doing a journal for softball players, if this person has nothing to do with softball, then they're not going to appreciate what you've put in there. Absolutely. And they're not going to be able to tell you, like, they'll just look at it, it looks good. They're not going to be able to tell you, is it going to be useful?
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you gave me a book about softball for me to review or to have a look, I would say, amazing, Keith, this sounds really good. And I'd have a look at the spelling mistakes, maybe if there are any,
Right.
you know, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't know what I think about the book as a topic, you know, because
Right.
I have no clue. So you're absolutely
Right.
spot on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you could be like, oh, I mean, it looks formatted properly. It looks great.
Yeah.
But again, if it's not useful, then it's not a good quality book
Yeah.
for the end user. And so
Absolutely.
it's definitely important, especially with no content, low content books, that, you know, because hopefully you're all using a niche, because that's the best way to sell something, is to have a, you know, a drilled down, you know, area of you know, experience. But, you know, making sure that the person looking at it for you is, you know, your target audience. So that way you can best, you know, they can give you the best quality response that they can, and do it knowledgeably, not just a generic, oh, it looks good, or I don't know about this. You know, you want something that's going to really speak to, basically you want, they're a free version of a paying customer. So, you know, they would have, I mean, that's the closest thing you can get until you start getting those reviews.
That's very true. And the other thing to maybe consider is also that if you ask 10 different people for an opinion on something, you'll get 10 different opinions. So you kind of have to learn to, it's true.
It is. Oh, it's definitely true.
Yeah.
I got beta readers that just got through reading my newest book, and I had probably about, I think, 15 beta readers, and I'm getting comments where, you know, I would rewrite this paragraph, and other people are like, "Oh, this paragraph was the
It's
best," and I'm
amazing.
like, "Which one?" You know? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
you always
what
have to take
happens.
that with that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I mean, you'll know, being the creator of it, if somebody says something. I will say, and again, we can do a whole episode on this, but you know, that you, because it's your book, baby, you might get defensive over certain things. Remember, they're not criticizing you. You know, they're criticizing your book like you asked
Which
them
is
to.
worse.
Yeah, but they're doing what you asked them to.
Yeah.
And so what you don't want is, you don't want someone to give you feedback and you get defensive of that, because then they're not going to help you in the future.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. You
And
have
so
to
it really,
you have to have a thick skin.
well, and just, I think, going in it knowing that they're not attacking you, they're talking about your book, and
They're
also
trying to help you.
knowing that whatever they said is just their opinion and their views. That doesn't, it's still your book. You don't have to do what they said, but it at least gives you an insight as to what your customers might be thinking.
Yeah.
So if you think, oh, that's a good point, then, you know, maybe you make adjustments accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. It's a really fine line. It's, you know, there's a lot to consider. And you kind of have to sometimes go with your gut feeling as well on something, you know. We said this so many times, done is better than perfect. You know, there's never going to be a perfect way of doing things. And you just have to try and see what happens. And it takes a bit of courage to do that. I mean, I'm nearly finished with my book, but I'm still not convinced that done is better than perfect. I still want it to be perfect, but I'm going to have to just take a leap of faith and put it out there eventually. And you know, that's the way you have to do it. Will it be a quality book? I hope so. I've taken all of those things that we've mentioned into account. I mean, there is no formula, really. You know, we can talk about these things and we can give you advice and we can say, this has worked for us. But even for us, every book we create is a new book. And it can either fall flat or be a hit or whatever. You know, it's every single book is different. And even with us, we've had a bit more experience, but even we can produce books that are not as high quality as we thought they were going to be. So it's all about trial and error. But if someone asked us, you know, how would you define a quality book? I think now we're a bit clearer about it. Still not 100% clear for me, but, you know, I'm getting there. And I don't think we'll ever be 100% clear because there are so many things that play a part in a quality book. So
yeah, there are a lot of variables. I would say if I had to sum it up into one word, I would say effort.
I agree, actually. Yeah. And I didn't know that before we talked about this today.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think you just absolutely made it clearer for me now. Yeah, you're so
yeah, I mean,
right.
that's, but I think the biggest difference that comes with the experience that we have is, we can at least, can we still put out books that are lower quality? Yes, we absolutely can. The difference is, I think, is that we know that that's a
Yes.
lower quality book than
Yeah.
what I normally do.
Yeah.
And as far as perfect, and we covered this in the other episode, but we're artists, whether you're writing or you're doing no content, low content. And when it comes to art, it seems like artists in general are perfectionists, and we're never satisfied. And so I don't think, the reason why I always say done is better than perfect is because from my experience, you'll never reach that perfection.
No.
Because and so you and think of, even if you could make it absolutely perfect, think of the users that are going without your book in the meantime. Whether it's a line journal or a nonfiction book or an epic novel, it doesn't matter. There's a buyer for everything. There's someone that's going to be interested in it. And the longer you wait on perfection, the longer they're waiting for your book.
That's actually very interesting. Also, because perfection means something different to each person. I can say to you, oh, wow, this is really amazing. And I think this is perfect for me. And you would probably think, well, not for me. I don't think it's that great. So there is that. There is a different perception of perfection for everybody. So exactly. I mean, what's perfect for one person might not be perfect for another. And I think that's why you can't pinpoint quality either, because it means different things to different people. So that's thrown a spanner in the works now, because we basically can't define it as such. I can define what quality means for me, but you would probably define what quality means for you and everybody else the same.
Yeah, that's why I said early on, I think the biggest thing is, it's a lot easier to define poor quality than good quality.
Yeah.
And so when you're putting out products, just do it with the end result that you're helping someone else with whatever, whether it's information, entertainment, something useful like a no content, low content book, and that end user will find that quality is worth what they paid for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the target customer, the target audience is the important. They're the ones that are going to decide whether it's a quality book or not, so.
Yeah. But if you put the thought into it now, it could prevent 1-star, 2-star reviews. I'm not going to say it's going to eliminate them, because I mean, Stephen King gets 1-star reviews. So, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And so, and to be honest, it actually adds a little bit of realism to your book, I found, but again, whole nother episode. But yeah, I would say, you want to do your best to put your book in the best possible light it can be.
Yeah.
Cover, interior, the research you put into it, and again, in the end, is your end user going to find it useful?
Yeah. And
are they going to be happy with their purchase?
Yeah, that's important. And I also think, look back at your first books. This is especially true for low content book creators. Look at your first books that you created. What do you think about them now? And I think if you're thinking, oh, they're not that great, chances are you're creating quality books now. But if you're thinking, oh, I think, they're good, they're all right, you're probably not realizing what a quality book is yet, because I remember when I made my first books, I thought they were really good for, I was excited. I thought, wow, I've got a book out on Amazon. I was so excited about it. When I look at those books now, I can see lots of mistakes. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. That's not right. And I think it shows your evolution as well. It shows how you grow as a creator and as a designer and all that. So practice makes perfect anyway. So the more you do it, the longer you do it, the better quality it will eventually be, hopefully. But I think that goes into it as well. Time, give it time, learn your craft, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
also...
anything worth doing, in my opinion, is worth doing right.
Yeah.
And I know, unfortunately, not everybody has that same mentality. But the good thing is from the listeners that I've heard from, that's not the mentality they have.
No.
But yeah, you want to put good quality in, and like I said, it's especially if you want this to be a passive income, you want this to be a long-term business, then you want to continuously improve.
Yeah.
And like you said, don't get me wrong, my first couple books, especially my line journals that I did and stuff, they were hot garbage. I mean, to the point where I've unpublished some of them.
Yeah.
Because I'm not proud of them,
Yeah.
But
same here.
Yeah. And that's fine. And because again, I've evolved as a creator, and I'm not just talking about, I did ones where, just line journals, and, I did the plain cover, the plain black cover with white text, which, is simple, but can still be done well.
Yeah.
Mine, on the other hand, were not, so it's knowing that I'm not saying it has to be, extravagant and go, over the top. Again, that's going to depend on what you find out in your research. What is quality for that niche. That's easy to tell, because you just look at the top sellers.
Yeah.
And you can see what people are expecting with the cover. Most of the time on Amazon, you can do a quick look inside and see what the interiors look like. So you can get a good look at what is selling for your niche right there on the marketplace, and then you've got the prices that are there. So that shows you what they're willing to pay. And so that aspect of the research is easy to do. And so you can see what is quality, what is considered quality for that niche, because it may change depending on the niche. There are some things that are just clearly low quality across the board, but it's also going to be dependent on the different niches, what type of book it is, whether, like I said, nonfiction, fiction, no content, low content, that's all going to differ and be specific to that niche.
I'll tell you another thing that I've noticed. I think my better quality books are books that I enjoyed making as well. I think at the beginning, like everybody else, you learn by looking on Amazon, and you watch YouTube videos, and, the typical black cover with the white writing. Yep. We've all done them. Yep. And I never enjoyed doing those anyway, because they were just a way for people to make books quickly. They're the kind of YouTube videos that show you, do this, so simple, so easy, you can make $1,000 a month, just do this. And you start doing that, and first of all, you don't make $1,000 a month with them, obviously, but also you don't enjoy making them, or I didn't enjoy making them. So it's only when I started to do more complex things that I actually enjoyed it more. And I think I can honestly say the books that are selling best for me are the ones that I enjoyed making the most, so maybe that has something to do with it as well.
And I think you kind of touched on that early on, because it's something that you're passionate about and something that you're knowledgeable about. And so because of that, it hits home more for you. And so, so you're going to be interested in it. Obviously, if I'm writing something or creating a journal for something that I'm not passionate about, it's going to be a lot easier for me to just kind of throw something together and to do low quality on.
That's exactly.
And so, and even if I put a lot of research into it, the more research I put into it, I'll become either more invested time-wise, or I'll be like, okay, this isn't something I'm interested in, and I'll just move on to something else. Early on, I was creating products basically just to make money, and now I create products that I want to create. I create books that I want to create. Even if it's not necessarily a niche. I've written books for niches that I didn't know anything about. I've done the right to market where I've, learned, I found a niche where people are hungry for books and there's not enough books out there. But then I dive into it enough and research enough, and I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And then I've written a book for it. But I won't do that. And if I'm still not interested in it, I know in my heart of hearts that I'm not going to put out a good quality book. I just move on to something else, because I know if it's not good quality, if I'm not passionate about it, it's not going to be good quality. It's not going to sell.
Yeah.
And so it's not worth the effort I'm putting into it. So let's move on to something that is worth the effort.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can really relate to that. It's the kind of, this is why I love this business so much, because you can research niches that you don't know anything about. And you might end up still not knowing anything about it, or finding it boring. Or there's particular niches that I've looked into because people were saying, make books like this. I won't say which ones they are.
Yeah.
And I just found them so tedious. I really didn't enjoy it. And I found out about the niche. I've learned a lot, which is great, but I'm still not really convinced. It's not convincing me. Whereas there have been niches where I didn't know anything about them. I've researched them and I thought, oh, wow, this is really interesting. I've really gone into it. I've made books in it and they were great. So it is about liking what you write about, for me anyway, and about enjoying it. And I think that has a big part to play in making a quality book, enjoyment of making it. Yeah,
I agree. I've done exactly what you said, and I've actually, because I get people that ask me, what should I write in, what should I create no content, low content in. So there's been a couple times, especially if it's either like a longtime viewer, someone I've known for years, or if it's someone else, another colleague, and they're just looking for something else. If it's an area that I've researched and I've found that there's a hungry audience for, but I'm just not feeling it, then I'm like, hey, do this, because I'm not going to do it, and somebody might as well, because the readers or the users are looking for these types of books. That's really, puzzle books are a great example of that. There are plenty of other puzzle types that I don't enjoy creating. And so, but there might be a market for it. And so I'll share that with people as well. But I do think that, and I'm not saying you have to absolutely love it, but if you're not interested in it at all, I think that's going to come out in the quality.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even if you're interested, but you're not passionate about it, again, it's something, there's so many levels of how it can go. But yeah, definitely. So enjoyment has a big part to play, in my opinion. Right. Yeah.
I mean, and not to say, if you decide that you're going to put out an okay book, not the greatest book, but not poor quality, but you're going to put out an okay book, just expect that you're going to probably get okay sales. I mean, you can't expect to put out hot garbage and think you're going to make millions off of it. Like that's just not realistic. And I don't think anybody who takes a step back can really think that that's the case. I can make $1 million on that first line journal I ever did. I'll probably have to spend 3 million in ads, but I can make it, And so again, it's not going to be profitable. And so you really just need to just set realistic expectations for yourself as well. So
definitely,
I do understand that some people, with their business model is about quality and quantity. And so, and I'm fine with that, but just, again, know that if you put out okay stuff, you're probably going to get okay sales.
Exactly. And what you said earlier, if you're putting garbage out there, then don't expect it to. And there are products out there that you think, how did this ever become so successful? And you think it's rubbish, but they've all got something, they either have they target a specific niche, or they have something. Usually if a product sells, there is a unique selling point behind it, or something that is quality. Maybe not quality in the sense that we think of as in quality, but quality behind the scenes, maybe we should call it. There is always something. So whether it's books or any other product, I think if like you said, I think that answered it really well. If you've put a lot of effort into it, then that is already something that goes in your favor. Of course, you can put a lot of effort into something and it's still a flop. That can happen, but it's unlikely.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But it's more unlikely, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like in those cases, assuming that the cover is really speaking to that audience, then it may just be the fact that it's just getting visibility, and in that case, running ads would be a great way to kind of mitigate that and give your book more of a chance to get visibility. And again, we could do a whole nother episode on ads, but yeah, I would say that if you're putting in good quality and you're still not seeing sales, because I could see people commenting and saying that, I put in good quality and it's not selling, that would probably be my first two questions is, is your cover speaking to your audience? Take a thumbnail and compare it to the other books that are there. And if it still is good quality and still fits in with that niche, then I would say, what are you doing to market it? Yeah. Because really, I mean, there is no guarantees that you're going to get sales, but if you put out good quality, that's your best chance of getting good sales.
Absolutely. Definitely agreed on this one again.
Shocker.
I know.
This has been another great mastermind, Nuria. Once again, a huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's mastermind, please consider following or subscribing to the podcast and maybe even leaving us a review and let us know what you thought. Until next week, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Corby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.